Welcome to another episode of Punching Up with Sean Conroy. I am Sean Conroy. I am punching up. Very excited to have a guest here today. He is a friend of mine for, I don't know, nigh on 30 years at this point.
Wow.
We met each other a long time ago, and just to give you a few career highlights, and we'll get into much more of this, but he is, first of all, an improviser, comedy improviser, which is how I met him at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater many years ago.
My first improv class.
Yes, and he was on a team there, a number of teams there, but the most significant one was Respecto Montalban. He now performs once a month with a team called Dinosaur at Largo here in Los Angeles.
Pretty much the same team.
What's that?
Pretty much the same group of people too.
Yes, people who've known each other for quite some time, and has written and produced on many shows. Just a couple of highlights: he was a producer on Drunk History, which you may be familiar with. He was an executive producer on the Chris Gethard Show, another great one. He's been an actor and appeared on shows like Parks and Rec, Children's Hospital, The Kroll Show, lots of things. He's been a movie star, which I'm not even kidding about.
Yeah.
You starred in your own flick. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you've also been sort of in an executive capacity at a production company. Is that correct?
That's right. For a long time. That was probably my most steady gig, was being a development exec for Gary Sanchez Productions, which is Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's production company. Was Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's production company.
Lives no longer. As often in the entertainment business, things come together and things fall apart.
Yeah, but that was like a really long run. Like, as far as things sticking together, that was like pretty great.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into that, but first I want to talk about, in my mind, you started as an improviser and that led to all these other things.
Okay.
And I guess my first question is really it's a two-parter. We're getting right into the two-parters. Why did you get into comedy, and how do you define yourself at this point? Like, if I said to you, what do you do? What would your response be? Do those make sense?
Yeah. So, what was the first question? How did I get into comedy?
Yeah, why comedy? Like, in other words, you were not always doing comedy, and then you were.
But I think I always knew I was funny from being a little kid and making jokes. So I always wanted to do comedy.
Right.
And what I knew was stand up. And so I loved Jay Leno growing up, and I loved, Eddie Murphy Delirious, and I loved all the HBO half-hour comedy hours or whatever those were. Damon Wayans, Kevin Pollak, Billy Crystal, Jake Johansson. No, not Jake. What was his name?
Yeah, Jake Johansson. Love Jake Johansson.
Dennis Miller. Like, I watched so much stand-up. Night at the Improv. Remember, it was on A&E. I watched all of those. I loved stand-up. Loved Woody Allen, his stand-up. But when I did stand-up, I wasn't natural to me to do stand-up. And so
let me ask, sorry to interrupt, but when did you first do stand-up? Did you do that before you got to the UCB?
Yeah. When I was in college, I did a little. And then when I moved to New York City in 94, even before that, when I was like living in the city in the summers working New York City, I would go do the Boston Comedy Club in the Village and do open mic nights. And I would try to do stand-up. I did stand-up at Collective Unconscious.
Oof. That was quite a place.
Yeah, I loved it. And that's where I met the Sklar's in like 94. And the Sklar brothers, who are great. And what was her name? Jen with the ears.
Reverend Jen.
Reverend Jen. And so I did stand-up, but I was funny, but it wasn't natural to me. It's not natural to me to be to speak I want to rush through what I'm saying because I'm so apologetic for being on stage.
Hmm.
I think if you're going to be a stand-up, you can't be apologetic for being on stage. Like, oh, I know you shouldn't be listening to me, but I have this idea. No, stand-ups are more confident. Something I'm still working through. I do stand up now,
A
and it's
king does not cry. That's the thing about being a stand-up.
yeah. Like whenever when the stand-ups that I know are so sure of them, even if they're not sure of themselves, they're sure of what they're saying.
Hmm.
And I don't have that 100%. And I still do stand up, and it's something I'm continually working through. So improv, I didn't know what to do because I looked into short form improv, Chicago City Limits, which was what you were a part of in New York City,
Yes.
and I did a class there,
Who did
and
you take a class with?
I don't remember. I have no
Mm.
idea. It was like in on the Upper West Side, and we walked up some stairs and some
Hmm.
place. And I remember I was like, "Oh, I can do this," but this is not an offense to that or whatever, but just it wasn't my style of comedy. And I felt like the people who did do that or were in that class were naturally, they didn't seem like funny people. They just seemed like,
Yeah. No, that was my problem. I wasn't funny.
you're very funny.
I
But it is, but you're also a stand up and you also did short form. You also did long form. And you're one of those people who was able to jump around like who could do that I can't. But so I was like, that's not for me either. And then my downstairs neighbors took me to an ASCAT, which is long form improv, the UCB show in 1996, fall 96, at a bar called Rebar on 16th and 8th. And my downstairs neighbors were like, you got to see this. And I'm like, I know what improv is. Like, no, you got to see this improv. And I went, and it was the four UCB, Colbert, McKay, Adam McKay, who I later worked for, Brian McCann. Um, it was amazing. John Glazer. I
Some
was
heavy hitters, some real heavy
It was
hitters.
amazing. It was amazing. I like watched it and I was like, I watched like Brian McCann start. I remember the first scene. Brian McCann started by typing something on the keyboard, and then McKay came in with a tray and he like put it down and he's like, orders are coming in really fast. And McCann was like, oh, let me get this keyboard out of the kitchen. And I was like, wow, look at them all agreeing. And like he's saying something funny and he's responding in a funny way. And that's what I did in class. That's what I did. I was a PA at the time, a production assistant on commercials and
Hmm.
movies and stuff. I was like, this is what I do in the truck with the other PAs. I was like, this is my style. It's collaborative, it's sharing. And I went up to Amy Poehler after the show and I said, how do I get involved? She said, take classes. That's what I did. I'm teaching a workshop this Saturday. You should come. I did. That was it. And then that's, I had to,
Life changing moment.
that was it. That's one of the epiphanies. I have a
I
few.
always describe my experience, my first experience at ASCAT as an epiphany as well. I always
Yeah,
say like it just blew my mind and made me go, this is the thing I want to do more than anything else. And I'd been doing comedy for 7 years at that point,
yeah,
and it
I had
still
not.
was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a one of those things where you see it, and I think it's important as a writer and as important as a human being to recognize epiphanies, to recognize when there's a moment in your life where you say, I should follow this. And
mhm.
sometimes it's with that, sometimes it's with marrying my wife, who I'm still married to, is like,
You got to stop following her, please.
yeah, she's,
She's
I
like,
was
I'm
saying,
just going to the grocery store, Owen.
please don't leave me, or bring me back a treat, golden Oreos. But it's just these epiphanies that I had in life that I really think are pivot points, as Ali Faranakian used to describe them as pivot points, where it's something where you recognize it and you pivot on it. And following through on long form improv was probably the most I ever followed through with anything. But I didn't know what it would lead to, but I knew it was the path. I knew that was going to be my process. This is my path. And where this leads is where I belong. I would like to do ASCAT one day, but beyond that, I don't know what that is.
Right.
So that's sort of how I got in, and why is because I always thought it was funny, but why I did, as you know me, is because I finally found a form that I felt suited how I like to be
You
funny.
were comfortable there.
Being listening and engaging and being collaborative is where
Hmm.
I am best. And being alone, and on my own and trying to have control or trying to be the only voice in the room is where I feel like that's not my strong suit. I don't play high status characters in scenes. Very rarely do I play a high status character in a scene.
Uh-huh.
I always play a low status character in a scene. And not always, but mostly. It's sort of my wheelhouse. And so it's just who I am, you know. And
Right.
so maybe it's because I'm the youngest of four boys or something, you know, and just it's where I fell. But so that's how I got into comedy. Now, how I describe myself now, I'm a comedian and I'm always doing it in a different way. Uh, the way I did improv or stand up. Now I do a little bit of stand up, though I'm not really dedicated to it. But I write, and when I write comedy movies, you know, for the most part, some dramedies, but I write a lot of comedies because of what I like to write. And when I perform comedy. When I act, I'm a comedic actor. I've never really been a dramatic actor.
Mm-hmm.
And when I
Well, not totally true, right? Wasn't that movie you did, was that more of a dramatic role?
What the movie I did in India?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like a bad guy, but it was like a kid movie. So it was sort of like Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci in Home Alone.
Ah,
It's pretty
okay.
much like the plot of Home Alone too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was real goofball. So I think I'm just a comedian and like I went, you know, I worked at Sanchez in development, and even then I thought of myself as a comedian because we did comedy. We did some dramas too, but you're still, or I am still using my comedic brain to be like, well, what kind of character fits with that character? Or what are we missing here? And how can we use that? And how can we make this funnier? And how can we make this whole thing work as a piece to make people laugh and that they enjoy it? And it's just using a different form to express myself, you know. I
Right.
love development. I loved working in development. I loved helping people with their scripts and casting the right person for the role and finding the right writer for the story or finding the right fit if someone came to me with a story and finding that writer and loving their work and pushing it forward. Like I love that collaboration. To me, it's invaluable to the process, and I love doing it. You know.
So let's talk more about that a little bit. Obviously, you're at a production company and you are trying to make things that you love, but that are also commercially appealing, right? So how do you, I mean, you were there for a long time. How did you figure out what, or I mean, I'm sure there were times that you thought something would be and it wasn't, or times you thought things weren't and it was. But how would you decide, okay, this is the thing we're going to focus on right now? This project is worth putting interest and time and money into.
This was the beauty of working with Will Ferrell and Adam McKay was that they were interested in doing things that were interesting to them. They weren't like we do Step Brothers only or we do bro movies or we only do
Hmm.
if it was if it was interesting to me in a way that I could tell them and make it interesting to them and think like, oh, I think Will and Adam would find this interesting. Like ultimately, I'm a conduit for them. You know, like they
Hmm.
can't go to all these meetings. So when I go to a meeting, if it's interesting to me, but I'm like, they may not like that. Like it was sort of like we don't do movies in space. Okay, so if I hear a space pitch, as much as I love it, it's like, well, I know McKay's not really interested in that or whatever, and you're sort of like, it has to be killer for me to bring it to him. Otherwise, he's like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I would listen to a pitch, and really, what it came down to a lot of the times is the person, because I read all the specs that were brought to me. Like I've never read coverage. I don't even know how to, or I don't think I've ever seen coverage. So I would just read the script, and I met so many amazing writers that way.
Hmm.
And you know, this guy Phil Johnston, Carson Mell, um, Allison Bennett, and just like amazing writers. And so I'd meet with them, and I just knew that if they wrote this script, what else do they want to write, and what is interesting? And if it was something that was not, it would be for us at Sanchez something that reflected the world a little bit. So
Reflected the world that we live in.
the world that we live in, you
Uh-huh.
know, so
Not space.
not space, but yeah, reflected, but it not reflected the earth, but the world. And so it had to be, it didn't have to be, but it was better if it was something that people can connect with in a way where it's not just like, here's a crazy insular idea that lives in its own world, but
Hmm.
it's something that reflects the world around it. Like, you know, Anchorman and Anchorman 2 are all about sort of the death of getting and giving news, especially Anchorman 2.
Hmm.
The campaign, that movie that Will and Adam did with that Will and Zach Galifianakis are in, it's all about like money and financing in campaigns, you know, and it's all sort of reflexive. It touches on things that we're all connected to.
So you're
And
looking at it thematically in a sense.
we're looking at it as like, do people relate to this? And I was also editor in chief at Funny or Die, and I was a consultant for Funny or Die my whole time I was at Sanchez. And a lot of times I would write videos and make videos there, and I would help hire people there. And I always look for people who are sort of connected to their community, who made stuff that reflected something that we all see, you know,
Hmm.
someone that could take something like what I love a lot about that job was finding great people like Eric Appel, who's a director now he did the Weird Al movie. I think he's directing Nate Bargatze's movie. I knew him from UCB. And I remember him at UCB being someone who didn't just make a sketch show, but he made a sketch show that timed perfectly with Dark Side of the Moon. And to me, I'm like, yeah, here's a guy who's not just like, oh, let me just make a sketch show, but here's a guy who always wanted to take it another step, always wanted to move it to another level or do something interesting. I'm like, that's the kind of person we need at
I
Owen
presume if
Burke.
it timed out perfectly to Dark Side of the Moon, it also timed out perfectly to The Wizard of Oz. Is that correct?
Well, the first 37 minutes of Wizard of
Right,
Oz.
right.
But yeah. And they did it like as a Glengarry Glen Ross type thing. And it was sort of strange and whatever. But to me, that was like, that's someone who's going for something. That's something that's really he's exploring and he's daring and he's willing to take chances. And I really like that. You know, and as a development person at Sanchez, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around a little bit,
No,
but
no, no.
as a
Please, this is great.
development person at Sanchez, I remember reading the script. Well, I remember like I used to do these panels all the time, which is like me and a bunch of executives standing on a dais, sitting in director chairs and take questions from an audience or whatever. And one person raised their hand and they're like, should I write a costume drama? I want to do a movie set in like Victorian England or something. And one of the execs, or a TV show, and one of the execs was like, don't do that because it costs too much and you'll never get it made.
Purely practical.
Purely practical. And my thought was, I said, the flip side of that is write it. Because if you write that, you're going to love what you're writing. And then I'm going to read it and I'm going to love your writing. And I'm going to want to meet with you because I'm like, who is this person?
Your passion is going to come through on the page.
And I met a writer that way. I met this writer, Jason Cahill, amazing writer, wrote for The Sopranos. I didn't even know that at the time. I just got the script about a Maine fishing family. It was
Hmm.
really dark, really like, you know, really cool, really wonderful writing. And I was like, I just got to meet this guy. And then we ended up pitching a completely different kind of show to Showtime. I don't know if a Maine fishing show that takes place at night a lot and all that and shoots
Yeah.
on water is possible. But I know I met that writer because they wrote what they wanted to write. And that was his spec. And when I write specs, I write what I want to write.
Yeah.
And I write what I feel like I can write right now.
Right.
And that way, how I write comes through as opposed to being like, how do I make a structure like this? I don't know. But I do know what I can do, and I do that. And hopefully it gets, because selling a script is not the only use of a script. As you know, writing a script not only has the uh, benefit of making you a better writer with every script you write, TV, play, movie, whatever,
Right.
you become a better writer and you take with you what you learn to the next script. Every script has its purpose, but that script can also not get sold, but introduces you to a producer.
It's as they say, a calling card.
That's right.
It's
It turns into
somebody
something
looks
else.
at it and goes, "This person knows how to write." By the way, I just want to interrupt for 1 second and say I went to college with Jason Cahill's brother. So
Oh, wow.
I've never met him, but his brother's always like, "Oh, you should meet my brother." I think he ended up working on whatever that Amazon Lord of the Rings thing
He
is, right?
did, and he
Yeah.
was in *Halt and Catch Fire*, and he's a brilliant writer. He's
Hmm.
just a brilliant writer. And the thing that we actually ended up selling to Showtime was Showtime was like, I don't know how much of talking out of school I can do, but like they were like not into it, but like they were looking for something else besides what he wanted to make. You know what I mean? And what he wanted to make, I really wanted to make because I really loved his the way he did them. Like there was
Showtime was like, "Do you have any Vermont fishing shows?"
a Vermont is huge for us right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We're actually going to move Dexter to Vermont. He's gonna sell
Well,
apples
Owen,
and
here's a question I have off everything you're saying, which is yes, this is a thing I talk about all the time with my students is write what you're passionate about. Be passionate about it because you're going to spend a lot of time with this script and you might as well spend time with something you love and enjoy. But here is the other part of that, and this is what that other producer was speaking to. Did you find that there were certain things that made or broke something's commercial success that you could sort of anticipate, or did you just never know what was going to
you
come?
never know. You never knew. Like there were things where you, you don't know. You know what? I always go back to this advice that Tina Fey gave. I don't know if you were there when we did like Chicago Improv Festival so many years ago, and Tina did a, little talk at Second City that actually Ali, you know, moderated. But she's like, if you want to write for Saturday Night Live, don't write what you think the show wants. Write what you want, and then we'll decide whether we hire you or not. But you can't guess what the thing is because if you're guessing, if you're like, I got to make something for this, then you're going to be working towards something outside of yourself as opposed to expressing something from within, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That only you have. Like people who got fired from Saturday Night Live or didn't get hired on Saturday Night Live have amazing careers in other places. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because they found the groove. The same way I found it with long form improv as opposed to short form improv
Right.
stand up.
I
You
love short form, by the way. I think it's very
find,
clever. It's
I,
very
I,
clever.
I'm just I love it too. No angry letters, but the but it has to come from within. Like my maybe it's pretentious or whatever, but I'm like nobody told Pablo Picasso when to have a blue period.
Hmm.
He's had a blue period, and he painted blue paintings and
He was out of all the other paints. That was
yeah,
basically what
he
happened.
was broke. But
Yeah.
that's like, why did he do that then? When did he get into cubism? When did all this? That happens in your own journey
Hmm.
and what you're going through. So if he was like doing something now, that doesn't say, I'm not saying to ignore trends. Like the thing I'm working on now and developing and hopefully moving forward, I was like, it's an idea I've had for a long time. And I had it as a development person. And then the actor that I wanted for it got something else. So I was like, maybe once that actor's done with that, I'll ask. And then,
Was that when I was on War at Home that interfered with that?
oh yeah, you were,
I was
because
no longer available.
yeah, it was going to be like the guy who started the fireman calendars. And I rented a hose that you could hold. Um, but, and so then Sanchez broke up and then COVID and then strike and it all just went, that idea.
Yeah.
And then as I was thinking, like, well, what am I writing next? And like, I write all the time, and so I'm always like writing something, and I'm like, well, what I finish something, and I'm like, well, what should I write now? And I was like, well, what about that idea? I'm like, yeah, that's fun, but I don't have no. It's a procedural, and I'm like, I have no idea how to write that.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's why I wanted someone else to write. And then I was like, but procedurals also are pretty much in this business right now, the only thing that's getting sort of close to getting sold. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? They're making a ton of those.
They're easily accessible.
They're easily accessible. People like them. They're dependable. And I was like, well, that's something that people are at least looking towards. And it's something that I feel like I can write now, even though I don't know how. And I started to write it, and I was right. I had no idea how to write procedural. And so I stopped writing it. And then I ended up writing something else, a multicam,
Excuse me.
because people are
Sorry.
looking at for multicams. And it was an idea that I had that I just thought was a good idea. And I'm like, I'm just going to write it. And so then I did that. And then I finally just was like, looked at the procedural again because I started writing it and working on it. And I was like, you know what? I can figure this out. I just have to figure it out.
Hmm.
And I just made myself figure out how to create a crime and how to solve that crime. And I just figured it out. And I was like, the reason why I felt it was important is because, well, I got to make money. And so this is something that I think the market would enjoy. This kind of character is someone that we sort of need right now, very optimistic, someone who helps people as opposed to someone who hurts people, and someone who's optimistic is about inclusiveness. And it's a detective series. I'm like, well, this is fun to do. And so I do have a sense of the world around me, and I have a sense of the market when I'm writing something as well.
So it was a happy medium
For that
between
purpose.
something you were passionate about and something that you felt was commercially viable.
That's right. And there are other things that I do that I think are for me that I don't know, but everything that I feel like that I end up writing is something that I'm reacting to in the environment, something that I'm watching on the news too much, or something that I notice how people are feeling lately, or whatever. I sort of, even through osmosis, I'm not like, oh, yes, I'm going to write about that. It's like something that comes out of me. Like there was something that I wrote, a feature that I wrote that, and I want to talk about this feature in a second, that
Great.
I was an idea I had for this actor. And a lot of times I'll just say this, I write for actors. I write for actors to get a script. I write to get a script to an actor and be like, do you want to play this part? And if they say yes, I'm like, well, this script doesn't have to be the pilot. It doesn't have to be an episode. Do you like the tone? Do you like your character? Do you like this world? Yes, then let's go pitch this world. And that's what I'm doing with this procedural right now. It's like I'm getting it to this actor, and I'm like, all right, let's go. I haven't gotten it to him yet, but that's the plan. It's like, this doesn't have to be the pilot. This doesn't even have to be an episode, but this is the kind of show you would be walking into if you wanted
So
to.
you're not even writing it directly as a pilot when you're writing it. You're just going, this is an exploration of
Yeah.
this place I
It
would
has a
like to go.
pilot feel to it. Like it definitely, I write it as a pilot because I want to get to know who these people are too.
Right.
Pilot is all about character building and world building in a clear, this is the word that every writer, especially writing a pilot, the number one word above everything else is clarity. Clarity,
Hmm.
clarity, clarity. Who are these people? Why are we following them? What's happening? And because it just sets everything else off, you know.
Right.
And what's true in episode one will also be true in episode 246. So there's a lot of responsibility to a
Well,
pilot.
except that Ross and Rachel got married.
Oh,
So,
that's true. But I'm sure the little spark was there in the first episode, you
oh, it
know?
was. It absolutely was.
And so, I got to work with Steve Levitan, who created Modern Family and Just Shoot Me and a bunch of great shows. And we did a show called LA to Vegas for Fox that I didn't write. I was producing for Gary Sanchez. But I loved listening to how he talked about characters and writing because he talked about the consistency of TV that, well, you may like this joke, but does this joke work in the next episode? In the next episode, is this who this person is?
Hmm.
Is this who people are tuning into to get their point of view because they can count on that point of view and everything? He had such a wide view of one joke. He really looked at it with a whole series and really, it was really great to if you ever get a chance to work with someone who's done it more than you, take that chance and just keep your ears open and listen because that person, you may not even like his shows or this or whatever, but that person knows what they're doing,
Right.
and it's really fun to listen and to just learn. But
Right.
so what was the point? Oh, so I'm writing this feature, and I wrote it for an actor because I just knew he would knock it out of the park, and so I was like and this is just, and so I was working with him on something else. And so I wrote this thing, and then I stopped writing it. This is after Sanchez broke up and everything. It was during COVID. And I stopped writing. I was like, I can't. I don't know what this is. And you know what? I'm writing this for the actor. And I'm not writing it for myself. And I'm writing it for the wrong reason. I'm writing it to get something going because I lost my job
Yeah.
and I'm worried about never working again. And I'm just trying to write this to get so I get it out and I get it right, and he'll get it.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
And then, so I stopped writing it and I wrote something else. I came back to it. And then for some reason at that moment, now I'm writing it to explore the world and why I wanted to write it for the first place for this actor, but why I want to tell this story. And what it is, it's called Out to Pasture, and it's about this. I won't bore you with it, but it's about a guy who used to be a bovine steward for a milk processing plant in Minnesota. Bovine steward takes care of the cows, and he's been with this dairy.
It's like an airline steward, but for
Yeah,
cows.
and that's small peanuts and Diet Cokes to cows. And so we call them cow attendants now, by the way. But
sorry.
But he gets the sweet, he gets early retirement. And they're like, you get early retirement. He's been with the company since the beginning. You get early retirement. But he's not ready to retire. He wants to be useful. And so it's sort of a story about a guy wanting to be useful. And he ends up working at the small dairy farm trying to save it. This person, the single mom, is working this dairy farm and he's helping. And why are you helping? I don't know if he's helping. Well, his wife's like, I sleep with this woman. He's like, no, he just wants to be useful. He wants to help. And the dairy farm is collapsing, and the dairy industry in this country is collapsing, and all this kind of stuff. But he's trying to be useful. And then I realized, oh, that's what I want to be. I'm not working anymore. I want to be useful.
You want to be a bovine attendant.
I want to be a bovine steward. And and it really was something that it didn't until I was almost done with the script that I realized that I was writing my own story about how I felt about where I was in my career, whatever, at that time. And it really was what I was really writing about were my own feelings. And I didn't realize it. It's all through us. It's all this subconscious or whatever. And that's something where I'm really proud of that script and I really love that script. It's not a straight comedy, it's more of a dramedy, and there's a lot of drama in it. But I just knew I knew what this character wanted. I knew why I wanted to write it, and I knew who this person is. And if you don't know why you're writing something, then it's not going to be good. Because
let me ask you this. You're saying you know why you're writing it, but you didn't always know that, right?
I didn't know subconsciously that it was about me, but I knew it was about someone who wanted to be of service, who wanted to be useful. That was a great line from John Irving's Cider House Rules, to be of use. The doctor always says the strongest quality of a human being is to be of use. And I'm a believer in that. And, something that I really love about development and being a producer is that it really is a service industry job. You're really there to make sure everyone else is happy, the writers, the actors, the production, that everything is working smoothly. No one cares if the producer is happy.
Right.
But everyone cares if the actor's happy, the director's happy, the story is working, the sets work, and you have a rain cover set and all this kind of stuff. It's a service industry job, and I love to serve, and that's why I love improv. I don't care if you get the joke or I get the joke, the scene gets the joke. We are the parents of the scene, and we want the scene to do well. Right. We don't care about ourselves. We're giving to the scene. Do well, scene. Go live your life. So
it's an organism in and of itself, the improv
that's
show.
outside of ourselves that we're building and we're giving to. And so when I wrote that, I didn't know I was writing about myself. And that's something where that actor passed, but loved it and was like, maybe we'll work together on something else, whatever. And that is something that it's not dead because it keeps finding a new life somewhere else. That doesn't go anywhere, or it does, and then it does, and then it does. But there's something about that script that people really like, and there's something they identify in it, and it's because I'm coming from no one told me when to have this period. No one told me how that I'm feeling like writing this right now.
This is your blue period.
This is my blue period, and right now I am sort of in a blue period. With the state of the business and a lot of things. I'm really feel like, oh, what am I in this business? Who am I in this business? will I ever work again? And all of this kind of stuff that's really scary that we all feel because we're all entrepreneurs. We're all
Trying.
trying on our own and no one is helping us. The same way we're not helping the shoe cobbler on Western, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope your business works. I don't know. I don't need any shoes cobblers. So we're all on our own, like doing it. And so when I write, I just try to keep, I'm writing about something that's inside of myself, but I'm also just trying to keep it joyful. I keep anything I'm writing, when I sit down to write, I keep the process of creativity joyful.
Uh-huh.
In that moment, I'm having fun writing whatever it is I'm having fun. I'm
Well,
doing
let me pivot now
and let me just say
because
this
yeah,
too.
yeah, go
Let
ahead.
me just say this last thing. There's a great line from Princess Bride where they're like when they take him to Billy Crystal, the Miracle Max. He's like, he's dead. He's like, woohoo! Look who knows so much. He's only mostly dead. He
Mm-hmm.
has the bellows. That to me is like every script because that script is dead, and then you give it to someone else, and someone else likes it, and then it's slightly alive again.
Yeah.
And you never know where that lands. It's mostly dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like a project that I've pitched since 2006, probably 5 or 6 times, because people hear about it. Oh, I want to hear that. And I've pitched it as a movie, uh, animated movie, an animated TV show, an animated something else. Like I've pitched it so many different weird ways because people like it. And so it's never dead.
Mm-hmm.
And you just never know. And it's really important as because we're in this business, is having something you're writing, but also have something that you can show. And while you're writing, and also have something that you haven't started writing yet. And having like crops, like we're farmers, and just having things
So
on
you're
the
saying have something that's ready to go, have something you're working on, and have something you're sort of developing all at the same
I'm
time.
pitching a show right now,
Mm-hmm.
which has been going amazingly, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm
A lot of big corporations are looking for shows.
Big corporations are looking for comedies that audiences want.
Yeah.
So I'm pitching a show, I'm developing another show. I'm also sending out like if a feature makes sense, like oh, some of my features. And I'm also writing a new feature.
Mm-hmm.
So while I develop this thing, while I send in a draft of this thing I'm developing to the producer, I'm like, well, now let me just go back to this Halloween movie I'm writing. And
Right.
I'll just go write that movie. And then I just do that while I'm waiting for answers. And then when I get my answers, I put that Halloween movie aside and then I'm working on this and work on it, work on it, work on it, work on it, hand it in. Okay, I got 5 days before this person will get back to me. Then I'm just starting something else. I will finish that Halloween movie hopefully by Halloween.
What a
And
coincidence.
just by coincidence, but I'm sort of making that I create deadlines for myself. I make deadlines because it's the same reason I wear a collared shirt during the weekday. It's a sense of I'm working. This
Yeah.
is, I just heard this quote from Chayefsky, sorry, who wrote Never,
Patty Chayefsky.
Patty Chayefsky.
Mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes. And great movie. And about the writing, don't think of writing as an art, which I don't 100% agree with, but think of it as work. And that I 100% agree with. That
Mm-hmm.
even if you sit down and you don't know what you're writing that day, I mean, you sort of know what scene you're writing that day, but what it is, then you just have to work through it, work through it, work through it. And you might only write half a page or something, but all that work that you're doing that day, the next day you might write 5 pages. But
Right.
you're writing that 5 pages not because of that next day, you're writing because of this day, because of
Right.
the work that you're working through just to get to the typing, if that makes sense. And everything is use. All that time, if you do the work, every the time that you put into it will be useful to the next thing. When I was a PA, I worked on this movie called Blue in the Face, which was an improvised movie directed by Wayne Wang and Paul Auster, who's an amazing writer. If you haven't read Paul Auster, great New York writer, uh, beautiful books, New York Trilogy, Leviathan, great books. And I would drive him to Brooklyn from Manhattan, and he'd be like, "Don't you just love writing? Even when you can't come up with anything that day and you're looking at the typewriter and you just have nothing, it's just beautiful." And he would talk about writing that way. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm like 22 or whatever. I'm like, you know, I like Wookiees, you know, but and I just remember that's a part of it. That kind of hitting your head against the wall is a part of it and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to be joyful too. And that's got to be part of the fun in it. I don't know, I'm jumping all over the place, but it really is like what you can control, control that and keep it joyful. And we got to do the work all the time on it.
Well,
Just have to keep
that
working.
that leads to my next question, which is, can you tell me a little bit specifically about your actual writing process? Because I think that's such a big mystery to everybody. Like,
Yeah.
how does somebody else go about doing this? What do they do? And how does it come together? And I know for me, that's something I've struggled with my entire career. Like, what is my routine, so to
Yes.
speak, you know?
Yeah. This is the most, I, this is something I really believe in because when I worked at Sanchez, that was a full-time job plus, you know, and so it
Hmm.
was a lot of hours and a lot of like brain power and stuff. So I always wrote, and I wrote on the weekends and at nights and stuff like that. And I always wrote my own things and made my own things as well. But once I didn't work there, now I'm at home and like, all right, so this is the most prolific I've ever been just because I have the time to do it. And, but I had to figure out my process. And this is the thing about process. Figure out what your process is. Don't do my process. Do your process. And your process may not make sense to me. But well, you do this. I remember I had Ato Fugard, the South African playwright, came to my college and gave us a talk. And he said, I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, I have coffee and I write till 9:30 in the morning. I have breakfast and walk my dog, and then I write till 1 p.m. and I have lunch, and then I maybe write for another half hour, and then I'm like walking through the fields or whatever, and being like, "Wow, early morning, geez, Louise." I'm like in college, like who wakes up at 5:30 in the morning, you know?
Hmm.
And but that's his process. Mine, I had to figure out, and I'm a morning thinker. Better, my brain works better in the morning, so I start at like 9:30 in the morning and I would sit at my desk and write. And but what I realized is I'm not good at writing at a desk. And I'm like, I want to get up all the time. I just sort of like I go like this all the time. And what I realized is I needed to be outside, first of all, because I'd look out the window and be like, it's so beautiful out, and I'm inside my house
Hmm.
all by myself. So I decided to move outside and I would sit in a camping chair and I would put my feet up on another camping chair and I had a computer on my lap and I would write that way. And I was like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. And I got myself a zero gravity outdoor chair. And I just, now it's like my feet are above my head, my computer's on my lap, and I'm outside and I find shade wherever there's shade. And I sit in the shade and I move my chair around during the day. And I just sit there and I write. And I could sit there for hours and write. And once I discovered that, I wrote the most because I had to figure out, well, how do I do it?
Hmm.
I don't sit at a desk like my Latin teacher would want me to. I lie down, and it was
By the way,
interesting.
congrats on taking Latin. That's great.
Not a big deal. I translated the
Yeah.
Indian, not a big deal.
Yeah.
But the it was a really because I remember being in Steve Levitan's office while doing LA Vegas, and he had a reclining chair. It was like really like I actually looked it up, and it was like so fancy. I could never afford it. It was like so. It was like so expensive. But it
Hmm.
looked beautiful, and I was like, "That's what I want. That's how I am." And I just knew it even before I did this myself. There was
Yeah.
something that clicked in me, epiphanies, little things, and uh, and so that's my process. Is I wake up if I have nothing to do, which is most of the time. I wake up and whatever I'm working on, I just start working. I just open up my computer to the last thing I was on, and I just start working on it. I just start writing, and I'm just like, okay, and the way I outline is very, everyone has their own process. Oh, do a huge outline, make a treatment, then do an outline and make a detailed outline, then write off of that. I don't do that. And why don't I do that? Not because I don't believe in it, not because I don't, because I'll never do that. And I know this about myself. I know
Hmm.
I'll never write an outline. Because if you had me sit down and be like, he goes to the milk processing plant,
Hmm.
then he finds out he's being retired. Then he goes talks to the cows. And then he goes home to his wife. Then there's the, I'd be like, oh, it's so boring. I'd rather do it in script form.
Yeah.
I'd rather discover that in script form. And it creates a little bit more work because you'll hit like page 40 and be like, oh, oops, I made a huge
Right.
mistake.
I feel like that's the difficulty with just writing in script form is you can go way far off track and be like, what the fuck am I even talking about? I would assume that also has to do with you translated the Aeneid in Latin, but you did not study Roman numerals, so it's very hard to outline without Roman
Yeah,
numerals.
well, that's true. You need
Yeah.
all those Roman numerals.
Yeah.
But the it is a but I do have like my outlines are bullet points. So it's
Hmm.
like this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, and then that happens.
Hmm.
And it'll be like 7 lines. And it's like getting from line to line is the script. So I know I have to get to here, and then I know I have to get to here, and I
Right.
know I have to get to here.
So you
And
have
then
guideposts.
the middle point, like one script, the script that I got the most attention for, and I came the closest to making this feature was, speaking of Patty Chayefsky, was like an updated version of Network, but told in the social media space.
Hmm.
And so, like a social media star, social media person comes out of nowhere, this is just viral. And this company like Snapchat's going out of business. And they're like, oh my God, we found somebody. And then this person turns out to be a real wackadoo, like real, like extreme person.
Hmm.
And so they just make their whole social media, app tailored towards this person. They just sell their soul for hits. And I wrote it, even though it's based on Network, I wrote it with the plot structure, the script structure of Jaws, where it's like shark comes, fight shark, lose to shark, or you think you beat shark, shark comes back, fight shark, lose to shark, fight shark, win shark, or something like that. I had like literally like that, and I just
We're going to need a bigger social media company.
we're gonna need a bigger screen, and so what that script I wrote in like 4 weeks. It was the fastest because I just knew what the story was and the how the action worked. It was like it's as if Jaws, they knew the shark was bad, but they kept the beaches open to celebrate the shark. Come be with the shark,
Hmm.
get eaten by the shark, whatever. And that's sort of what social media is now. Like jump into this debate and be a part of this toxic debate that doesn't go anywhere beyond this. But so it was really just bullet points. And to me, that just because I don't, and I was this way in college writing papers. If I had to write an outline for the professor or whatever, I would end up getting a worse grade than if I just wrote that paper the night before.
Hmm.
And I just know, and it's why I'm an improviser.
Right.
It's because I constantly am like, well, if this is true, what else is true? What would happen next? A lot of times I'm writing, I'm like, well, if I'm watching this movie, if I'm in the audience, what do I think would happen next? And then I just write that.
Hmm.
And sometimes it works. Sometimes I paint myself in a corner. Then I have to just scrap it or start over. Um, but normally it sort of works pretty well for me. And that's my process. And listen, I don't even know how many scripts since 2019. I've written like 12,
Wow.
like 4 features, and then I'll talk about this very quickly too, but like 4 features, a bunch of pilots, a bunch of 1 second episode of a pilot to see if that show would work, and it didn't.
Hmm.
And I found out in the second episode, like, oh, this show doesn't work really
Right.
as a show. But and I just write all the time. So there are a lot of like bad scripts there, but there's also this process also gave me a few good that when people read it, like this is really good.
I think that's an important point because that's something that has tripped me up a little bit is to be so precious about something and go, I'm going to keep working on this until I know it's exactly right. And I think there is something to be said for that. But there's also the thing that you have said several times now of like, you know, you get better every script you write. So you keep writing and you find something else that's going to be great, you know?
Yeah. And it is good. Like this thing that I wrote that I'm developing now, I really liked it when I gave it to this producer. Like I'm really proud of it. And he had some thoughts. And then we gave it to another writer, mystery writer, and he had some thoughts. And those thoughts made it so much 1000% better.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, the script is so much better now, you know? And it's like giving it to those outside eyes instead of being like, how do I think this can get better?
Yeah, yeah.
You give it to that set of eyes, and you're like, and if you can accept notes outside of yourself, that you're like, you don't have to take every note, but you're like, that's what it's missing. Yes, that's the nugget of truth I'm looking for. And you can incorporate that, then it does become 1,000% better. Then I was really proud of that script. And then I gave it to someone else before we were going to give it to somebody, the actor. We gave it to someone else to read, someone I really respect, this writer. And his thoughts were something that I knew 6 drafts ago that I don't know why I didn't do it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's right there. It makes so much sense. And a
Right.
lot of times you have to be pointed out to what you already know. Sort of what I was saying about that other script I wrote. I'm like writing about something, I'm writing about me. I don't even realize it. And then there's something missing in the script that I'm writing now. And it took someone else to point to me what I already knew. And I'm
Right.
just like, oh yeah, obviously. It's like, how's that blind spot so big? And that's why it's good to show people, even though it's very painful to show you writing to other people, it's good because there's things that you may take for granted that audiences will just get or whatever. And it goes back to that word clarity. How do you convey clearly and in an entertaining way the idea you want to do? If that makes
It's
sense.
hard because you have it in your head, so of course it's very evident to you, but you have
Yeah,
to get it from your head onto the page into the other person's brain, and
yeah.
that's a long trip.
And a lot of times I'll write something over and over again, and I'll be like, well, we can always cut it in editing, or if someone doesn't want to read that in the script anymore, you cut it out. I always remember doing sketch writing class with Matt Besser of the UCB, and we were doing some sketch about a guy who breaks his fingers because his friend won't believe him about this like stupid joke. And he's like, every time before you break your finger, you have to say, I'm gonna break my finger because you don't believe me. And I remember being like with the best, like, this is like a 3 minute sketch. You have to keep reminding the audience. But it's like, yes, you have to keep reminding the audience, you know?
Hmm.
It's the same way like when you're writing a sitcom or something that once you come back from commercial, you have to reset up what's happening in the story because people do forget. You don't just like keep going with the story. Always like a line that says, "Remember, we're looking for this murderer on the docks," you know, and
Right.
it's like just reminding everybody where they are.
It reminds me of what irritates me about reality TV is you watch it till the commercial. I mean, there's a lot of things that irritate me about reality TV, and I shouldn't even be watching it. But you watch it till the commercial, and then they come back from the commercial, and you just see the highlights of everything that's happened in the previous segment, so that you know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And you wanna reset that for the audience. Okay, just a couple more things, Owen. Here is one of them. Suppose you had the chance to give advice to the young Owen Burke. What would you say to him?
Don't rely on your looks so much.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna fade. What I would say to myself, Dean was like, "Is he joking? Or is this guy not joking? I can't tell. This guy thinks he's handsome." Uh, I think my thing to myself is to be don't be apologetic about what you want to do. Don't be deferential to other people waiting for permission to do this or that. I'm very much, oh, I can't do what that person's doing. That person is special or that. No, if you just do something enough, you'll be able to do it too. And
Mm-hmm.
just find the thing, and I sort of did with long form improv. Once I found that and was like, this is what I'm going to do, then I really didn't hold back, too much. But then there came to a stage where once we started getting good and well, I don't know if I can do ASCAT with all of the Saturday Night Live people because they're, so much more better than me or they are more talented or something, which isn't real. We're all just sort of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And to, and I don't know if it's my upbringing or whatever, but it's like this deferential to an expert or something, as opposed to really believing in who you are and what you believe in and what you do and just getting it out there. And, a lot of times I put other people's needs in front of mine, which is why I'm a great improviser and why I'm good at development is because very much will put this show or the person's needs in front of what I need to do. I was artistic director at UCB Theater for 2 years, and for 2 years, I was helping everybody else's career. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which I love doing, but I wasn't writing my stuff at that, even though I was improvising at the time,
Right, right.
doing a sketch show. But like, I wasn't really focused on Owen. You know what I mean? And as much as I love that job, I would just sort of say like, protect yourself too. Like, just be a
Right.
little bit more. Be proud of yourself. You know, I'm a chronic self-loather, and so it's just like a real work through that, and just to be like, no, believe in yourself, and that you're not a bad person. And I'll tell you this, and maybe this is I'm talking too much, but
It's a podcast. It's all about talking.
I know I just did this mime podcast this morning, and it really there was no talking, but
Mindcast? You were on Mindcast?
mimecast, yeah. But my friend is really my wife's friend, and I'm friends with her too. But she lived in LA for a bit. She was from, we knew her in New York, and then she lived in LA. And she's really one of the funniest people in the world. And she's like, I'm moving back to New York. My wife's on the phone with her, and I'm like, what's going on? She's like, she's moving back to New York. I'm like, what? Why? And I got on the phone with her. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I just can't. LA, it's too tough, and I can't get a job, and this and this. And I'm like, you know what? You're the funniest person. You just got to write a script that shows the world this. Because I'll tell you, as someone who works in development, and this is what I would tell my young son. I read, because I read everything myself. I read, let's be realistic, like 75 to 100 scripts a year,
Hmm.
depending on if I was staffing, then even more those years. I was
Right.
like reading so many scripts. And I'll tell you, a lot of the scripts I read were not good. Some of them,
Bad? Would you say bad?
I would say like sort of bad or sort of like, there's nothing here. I get
Right.
why this
Right.
person has representation, but there's nothing like here. And then you get a script that's not bad. And you're like, oh, okay, it's not bad. And so it sort of goes on, not bad, bad. Then you get a pretty good script, and that pile's smaller.
Hmm.
And then you have a great script, very few, very even tinier, and an amazing one, too, maybe. Those are the people you have to be. Amazing, we have to hire that person. Hey, showrunner, read the script right now because we're going to lose him. We're going to lose this person, that because pilot season used to be every show is doing it at the same time.
Right.
Here, read this person. We got to hire them before Marry Me does or whatever. And then there's the other ones that you're like, oh,
Those
let's meet this person.
fuckers that marry me.
Yeah, but it's really it's you're as good as anybody else. If you do the work, it's not you can be as good as anybody else, and you have to believe in yourself. You have to really, you know, just believe in yourself that it's pretty good if you do it and you listen and you work hard at it. It's not going to be as terrible as anything else that you're watching or that people are writing. So be nice to yourself about your own work a little bit.
Right. I guess I could take a page out of that book. So Owen, here's another question I have for you. Do you have like what is your most, if you're comfortable sharing this, what is your most memorable story that you have from your years of experience in comedy and development, in performing, in writing? Is there something that stands out in your mind as like, oh, this was a funny moment? Just something
Well,
that stuck with you over time,
well, this is the thing. You know, I talk about this movie all the time. I probably talked about it with you. I talk about it. I would talk about it at work so much at Sanchez that it became a running joke. But I was a PA on the movie Joe's Apartment, which was the MTV's first movie about cockroaches. And I was the director's assistant. I had the best job because wherever the director did, I went with him. And he was like a really cool guy. He worked in MTV in the animation department. This is his first movie. So he has no idea what he's doing. It's a big feature for Geffen and Warner Brothers, and it's MTV's first movie, a lot of heat on it. And I learned so many lessons on this show because it was just, I watched the greatest people doing just amazing work. I remember a friend of my family, my one of my best friends' dad, because the movie bombed, and he's like, "Did your experience on the movie change because it bombed?" I was like, "No, because we didn't know it was going to bomb when we were making it," and I learned just so much on it. And one thing that sticks in my head, and it's something to think about for if you're writing, because even if you're writing something, it's collaborative. If you're a filmmaker, screenwriter, unless you're Christopher Nolan or what's his name, Quentin Tarantino or someone like that, what you're writing mostly just goes into a machinery of a studio, rewrites, director rewrites, actor rewrites, whatever. And it's sort of, you just let go of it or whatever. And
Hmm.
it's other people take over. And a TV show, you write a draft, it comes back, the room fiddles with it and may
Right.
change it. And it's collaborative. And I remember a PA on Joe's apartment was like, um, it was first team, which means you bring actors to set. And she's like, I'm gonna go get talent. And then the AD, VB Borga, was like, no, 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 no. All PAs come here. On this set, we don't call actors talent because everyone here is talented. And we can't just think of the actors as talented, but you have to really look at everyone. They wouldn't be here if they weren't talented. You know, Peter Deming was the DP. He made Evil Dead. He shot Evil Dead 2, Lost Highway, Austin Powers. Like, he's amazing. Uh,
He was talented.
he
He was
was
talented.
talented. Mo Flam was the gaffer on Batman movies. Robert Feldman was amazing key grip. Richard Kierke is one of the best dolly grips in New York City. And it was all these people. Carol Spear, production designer for all of Cronenberg's movies. Like, it was an incredible crew of people. And what you realize is that your work, when you get to make stuff, that when you're actually doing it, that you realize that everyone is talented and everyone has their role in a production.
Hmm.
And without that person doing the smallest thing, everything can fall apart. And so everyone should just be treated with like the same amount of respect and care, because no one's more important than anyone else on a. Of course, there's the star that like that lives on their face or whatever, but it really is like how that face is lit and how it's shot and the focus puller. It all, everyone there is there for a reason, and I always think about them. And
Hmm.
that's something that I learned. I wish I had a good, fun, juicy story that I can't think. I know as soon
Force
as
10 from Navarone.
lying in bed and watching Force 10 from Navarone with you at the Aspen Con Festival. But that's something too. I'll talk about that.
Hmm.
Not to make this podcast too long for you and make it that you just, but
No, no, no. This is great. We have
we went to
all day.
Aspen together, Sean Conroy and I, because I did lights for your show.
Hmm.
Taught, right? No,
Taught. Yeah, yeah.
it was called Taught, where you're about you being a school teacher. I did lights for it, right?
Hmm.
And I was also there to do, because I
Ali's
did
show.
Ali Farnakian show, a word of mouth. And the reason I was there was because I did lights for both shows. Now, Ali's show, I was a little bit more involved. I didn't tell you to go make Todd. You made Todd and you needed a tech person. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay.
Right.
And, and Ali, I used to run this open mic called Bogus Sting at UCB on Thursdays at 11. And Ali had just left Saturday Night Live and he did this sketch there. He was like a monkey man, like, is this how you see us? And really crazy and fun. And I said, like, you do 8 more of those, we'll do a show and we'll put it up. And then Besser like put it on the calendar and we worked towards something. And
Hmm.
then he brought in Jeff Richmond to direct it, who's amazing, such a talented person. And as I was not really anything more than the tech person, but I got to watch that show get created. I got to watch Jeff Richmond work. I also did Louis C.K.'s Stupid Town show. I was the tech person for that. And I got to work with John Glazer in the back, who did a voice in the back with me. And I got to watch how shows were put together. And to me, when we went to Aspen, you went to Aspen. Your show went to Aspen. But the reason why I was there is because I helped people. I didn't just do what I was doing. Oh, what's my show? What's my thing? But I just had this proclivity to help other people and learn and to dive into that space. And I could not recommend that more to young people, that even if you're a writer or whatever, like, oh, this is what I do that and then go help someone else with their show, go direct another show, go do lights for another show, be a part of it in some way, because you'll just learn so much. You'll just absorb so much that you don't even know you're absorbing at the time. You won't even know how it's affecting you until 10 years later, or till you bump into somebody. You're like, oh yeah, remember we did that or whatever. And it's important. And like those times in Aspen were really fun, but how we got to Aspen was just, it's a lot of work that you don't realize is for anything, but it could be for something, or it could
Right.
not be for something, except for the
Right.
experience in itself, which is something worthwhile. And nothing is wasted if you do the work, if you invest yourself into it. Nothing is wasted. There's no wasted time. You can learn from everything, you
It
know.
can't be outcome dependent. It has to be something that you feel strongly about.
And strongly about in the moment, like when the UCB asked me to be artistic director, I was applying to be a writer on Daily Show, and guess what? I didn't get it. And I was like, I'll do this because I care about this theater so much. I'll do this job. And I didn't know what it would mean for me. And it ended up helping me get that job at Gary Sanchez, which is Will Adams' production company. But I didn't know that at the time. I just knew at that time I loved the UCB theater. It needed someone who loved it to be the artistic director, and that was me at that moment.
Hmm.
And I can't speak to my judgment or anything else of that time, um, except for the amount of talent that came out of that time. But all I knew is that I loved that place, and every decision I made was about helping that place do well.
Right. It
And
seems to have done well.
yeah, it did well. And probably my best decision was suggesting that they hire Anthony King to be
The next one.
the next one, because he's really, and he did it much longer than I did, and he is brilliant. You know what I mean? I just knew he could do it because he is so thoughtful and caring, and he looks beyond himself.
Hmm.
And not everyone's like that, and I understand that, but I do think that there's so much to be gained from getting out of your own blinders, and also saying, well, how can I help the community, and how can I, not just to help the community, but I can learn from it. I can really learn. You watch Jeff Richmond direct, or and you watch Louis C.K. put a show together, or something like that, or you just learn more. You just are just like, oh, that's cool. I never thought of things that way, or wow,
Hmm.
that's interesting. Like, wow, I've never, it's like working with Steve Levitan. You're just like, oh, that's so cool. Like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And there's certain people that if you're if you think of everyone, going back to Joe's apartment, that everyone is talented, you can learn something from everybody on set, or in development or something. You can just learn. You learn from everybody, and
Right.
it's a it can be a magical thing.
Owen, last question. I'm just looking for a way to wrap things up. And I guess here is my question to you. Very simple question. What is something, if you could recommend a television program or a movie that you think a lot of people haven't seen that they should have, is there something that comes to you, or is that too specific of a question?
No, I love it. Well, I'll tell you a book I'll recommend, just because I just finished it.
Great.
I'll recommend three things.
Okay.
Is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Never read it.
Hmm.
Holy moly. If you haven't read it, holy moly. It really just delves into the human condition in such a beautiful way that I just am like, wow, man, it's so incredible. It's just so many beautiful moments, but just like the whole book, you just live in humanity, and
Hmm.
the frailty of humanity. It's an incredible book. Um, TV show that I can't believe not more people, and this is sort of a statement maybe on the state of affairs of our industry, is this show called Devs, Dev as in Victory S, by Alex Garland. It came out in like
Hmm.
2018 or something like that. It was on FX. And it's all about, I don't even want to say it. It's just about like Silicon Valley and like sort of computers and everything like that. But it's more than that. It's about humanity and a lot of things.
One season?
One season, like 7 episodes or 8 episodes. Alex
Hmm.
Garland, who wrote Ex Machina, and I think Arrival, maybe not Arrival, but 28 Days Later. Amazing writer. And something interesting he said when I took a deep dive on the show, and it's so complex about like computer programming and coding and all of this kind of stuff. I'm like, how does this guy know so much? And I listen to him on a podcast. He's like, well, a lot of this stuff, I'll just Google it and be like, is this this? And be like, yeah, okay, that's good enough. And to me, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Because you sort of only have to know a little bit because the rest is about characters anyway. Like
Right.
my dad worked in government and he hated the show West Wing because he's like, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, but it wouldn't be TV if it was the way it worked. It would be the
Right.
most boring show on TV. And so, you know, just enough to get by that, you know, that this person works in this department in the White House or whatever. Or in Alex Garland's thing, that coding can get you this. And so he just needs it for story. And that such a relief to hear him be like, eh, it's okay. Just Google it and see if it fits, then move on. And I was like, I do that all the time. I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you really, no one's watching that show and being like, oh, that's not exactly. And even if they are, like, who cares? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I do like mobsters watching Goodfellas. Like, nah,
Yeah, right.
Karen would get
I
that.
here's my can I do my West Wing impression for you?
Yeah,
I bet we could get Josh to get the votes. That's the first lady on West Wing.
that's really good. Stoddard Channing. I stopped her once on at Columbus Circle. I'd seen her in Hapgood, and I saw her in, I'd just seen her in Hapgood, which is a Tom Stoppard play, and I saw her in 6 Degrees of Separation when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
She's so amazing in 6 Degrees of Separation. What a beautiful play. And I'd recommend that play. 6 Degrees of Separation by John Guire, like such an incredible play. All about connectivity, all about belonging, all about family, just being someone belonging, this idea of belonging, which I think so many people can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Such a beautiful play. But I stopped her in, I never stop celebrities ever. I'm rare. Like, but we were like both crossing illegally on, you know, Columbus Circle is a really big circle. In
Mm-hmm.
the old days, like in the 90s, you can just run across the circle and just be like,
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I turned around, I was like, Stalker Jenny, you got the goods. And she's like, oh, thank you. And we just kept running our opposite ways.
Yeah.
Then I got hit by a pedicab. No. And then uh, um, another play.
90s was before pedicabs.
Oh, yeah. Another play I would recommend is Arcadia by Tom Stoppard, which is something that I saw at Lincoln Center. I was a PA on Joe's apartment when I saw it, and it was playing right up the street. So I just got a ticket one night, sat in the back, and watched it. And I bought the play and I read it on the way home on the subway.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read it maybe like 15, 20 times since then. And I read it like once every 2 years or something. I love it. It's such a beautifully written. And the more I read it, the more I get out of it every time. I'm like, oh, how did I miss this? This is incredible. And then a movie that I would recommend. I just saw All About Eve the other night for the first time. Really incredible movie. Really amazing. But I'll talk about
I'm sensing a theme there.
All About Eve.
Eden, the
Oh,
whole.
oh yeah, it's true. Very um, but you know, I don't know what else I'd recommend. You know what it is? Something I'll tell you this is interesting. I'm sorry I'm talking so much,
No,
but
please. That's why you're here.
is see, I'm apologetic. So
Yeah.
I'm not a good stand-up.
Well, that's why
Please
you
take
got
this
kicked
mic.
off the Mimecast. They were like, shut the fuck up.
Got blabbing away.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is When I first saw The Big Lebowski in the theater, the Coen Brothers movie, I didn't like it. I was like, I don't get it. And I was in my 20s or whatever when I saw it, and everyone loved it. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't get it. Well, I just don't get it. I can sort of see what's sort of, but then again. Then everyone's like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. So I watched it again, and I was like, oh, I see why people like it, and I liked it more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched it again like a year later, and I was like, no, I
Not
don't
for
like
you.
this movie. No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And then I went to one of those um, the readings, the Jason Reitman reading, the table reads that he does, like
Mm-hmm.
where everyone reads a part or whatever. And Seth Rogen was the dude, and it was really. And listening to the script, I fell in love with the movie. Fell in love with it. I was like, this movie is so good. The
Mm-hmm.
script is amazing, just incredibly amazing. And now I love that movie. And it's really amazing how listening to the script and you realize you just get a different feeling for that script. It's really it's amazing how things can change in you, or how you hear things, or how you're introduced to something can change. And so I'm not recommending The Big Lebowski, but I just found it interesting that I didn't like it in one way, and then if I keep digging into it, learn to love it in a different way.
Your perception changed.
Yeah. I've been on a big Edward G. Robinson kick, like Little Caesar, and I'm watching Key Largo, and I love him in Double Indemnity, and I love him in that Hitchcock movie uh, with Joseph Cotton, mm, which I can't remember, but that's a great movie. But I don't know what I'm saying. Go
All
watch
right.
it.
Well, no. I think that's a good place for us to pause and start part 2 of the podcast. I don't know if you knew there's a part 2, but there's another whole segment to go.
Yeah.
No. Owen, thank you so much for all of this information, all these insights, all these thoughts. Where can people find out more about you or follow you on Snapchat or anything like that?
They can follow me at Owen Burke on Instagram, I guess, and I'm on Twitter, but I don't really do anything there anymore. But
Except get agitated.
oh my God. But and then I do an improv show every month at Largo, called With Dinosaur, and then another great show I'd recommend is Deadwood, for just great writing. God damn, I'm sure everyone talks about Deadwood, but damn, that writing is amazing.
It really is. It really is.
So beautiful. It's beyond belief. And that's it. I don't really. And then I'm on. They can follow me, like, LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn. Come on, how about it?
All right, great. Owen, thank you so much. Folks, thanks for listening. Owen was already a guest. I will be a guest on the Mime podcast, so get ready to not listen to that. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.